Now available in paperback and e-readers. John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s in this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Get your copy of John Haynes, 1987 in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Legendary comic book artist John Romita Sr. passed away in his sleep today at 93 years old. Now, John Romita is considered to be one of the greatest comic artists of the 20th century, and his version of Spider-Man is considered to be the iconic version that everybody remembers. Now, John Romita was born one of 5 kids to a baker and graduated from the Manhattan School of Industrial Art in 1947 and was working in comics by the time he was 19 years old. And as John Romita was working in comics, he worked for both Marvel and DC Comics when they were called Timely and National Comics at the time, and worked on a variety of comics, including romance comics. Now, John Romita's first work as related to comics was in Eastern Color's famous Funnies, but he was known for producing multiple romance comics during the time that they were popular, and was considered to be one of the greatest romance comics artists of his time. And in 1966, John Romita Sr. made the transition from romance comics over to superhero comics when Marvel's editor-in-chief at the time, who was writing The Amazing Spider-Man, was looking for an artist to replace Steve Ditko, who had been working on the Spider-Man comic since 1961, but wanted to leave after having an argument with Stan Lee regarding the direction of the character. And that is when Stan Lee then asked John Romita Sr. to come in and start working on The Amazing Spider-Man. And as John Romita was asked to do this, he was a little hesitant because his genre was primarily romance comics, and he really wasn't used to doing superheroes, but eventually he started to get a groove on Spider-Man, and his 5-year run of Spider-Man is considered to be the greatest run of Spider-Man comics in history, considered to be the definitive run of the character, and featured his designs that are related to his iconic look, because John Romita's Spider-Man basically is what many people consider to be Spider-Man. It is featured in most of the merchandising, even to today, and is also the inspiration again for much of the designs as related to what is considered essential to Spider-Man. Now, John Romita Sr.'s run also had some of the greatest stories of the Spider-Man run, including a confrontation with the Green Goblin, what was considered to be one of the major events, him meeting his girlfriend Mary Jane Watson, and also featured a lot of different storylines that basically considered to be the most important moment of Spider-Man's life, because these were his college years, and this moment as related to the Spider-Man character really was one people could relate to and identify with. And with Romita Sr. in charge of Spider-Man, the book's sales basically had a huge spike, and Spider-Man became so popular that it surpassed Fantastic Four as Marvel's #1 comic, and with John Romita drawing Spider-Man, the character basically became the face and the mascot of the company. Spider-Man went from becoming a #2 character to becoming the flagship character, with John Romita in charge of the art on the Spider-Man comic, and Spider-Man was taken to new levels, again, all with John Romita's fantastic art. Now, John Romita, as he was working on Spider-Man, eventually then in 1972 became Marvel's unofficial art director, and as he was working as the art director, he was out here making contributions to Marvel Comics, helping with the designs of other legendary characters like Luke Cage and Wolverine, 2 characters who became icons due to John Romita's visual design, because it was John Romita's visual design that gave Luke Cage his iconic costume with his silk shirt, and the chain, and it just basically popped and gave Wolverine the costume that he is, the blue and yellow costume he is known for. That was all due to John Romita's contributions to the comics. In addition, he also helped design the Punisher's whole costume with its iconic skull. So John Romita was known for producing many of the great characters that we see as icons today, and he was a brilliant art director at Marvel who basically made some of the most fantastic designs after doing his legendary 5-year run on as related to Spider-Man. Now, John Romita also went out here and served as Marvel's art director for 2 decades and completed a lot of different titles, including the legendary 1987 Amazing Spider-Man Annual, which featured Mary Jane and Spider-Man getting married. Now, he also worked on many cards as related to the Marvel Universe trading cards, and I remember them from Series 1. And he's also done a lot of different covers for different characters over time, and he's also done a lot of great commissions. So John Romita, again, I always loved his art style. I always loved how dynamic it was and how bright and hopeful it was. That was one of the great things about looking at a John Romita senior piece, was how bright and friendly those books were. And again, the images just drew you in because they were just very bright and very dynamic. Even in dark covers like the Spider-Man No More cover, the art on it basically was absolutely fantastic. And when you looked at John Romita's art, it just made you smile when you looked at it because it just was so inspiring and hopeful. And he was a very positive man all through his life. Again, I'm just really sad to hear about this, another great master of comic art leaving this earth. And again, it's really sad to see the passing of John Romita, who passed in his sleep, but he's now with the Most High, and he's now in the kingdom, I'm hoping, because he really, I've never heard a bad thing heard about him. I mean, John Romita, again, great artist and a great person, like the legendary George Perez, and I'm really sad to keep seeing legends of comics passing away. I mean, it was sad to hear about the passing of Neil Adams, the passing of George Perez, and now John Romita. And these were men who basically defined the comic book medium in the later part of the 20th century. Their runs basically defined the characters that they worked on, and John Romita was a true master of the craft, and I really was happy to hear that he was able to pass the craft on to a new generation of artists as he was working as the art director, because that's one of the things that I don't see happening today is of people seeing the craft being passed on as related to comics, because comics is a craft and it's passed on from one craftsperson to the next, and what one craftsperson teaches another artist helps them to develop their skills and hone their craft. And anybody who worked with John Romita, I believe, learned a lot about the craft of comics. And again, he was a brilliant artist and a just great professional. And it's just sad to hear about his passing. And it's sad to hear about his passing because he went out here and again created one of the greatest Spider-Man runs in history, turned that character into an icon. And I'm really sad to hear about his passing. And I just really wish that he had gotten more compensation for all of his great work in comics, because as a guy who worked in work for hire, I don't believe Marvel compensated him fairly as related to all of the great images that he created. I mean, he basically defined Spider-Man, basically turned him into the #1 character that is the flagship character of the brand, and he should have gotten more compensation outside of these work for hire contracts. And again, I look at John Romita, again, great man and a great talent, who I definitely will be missing as related to him being a part of comics and the comics medium. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. Sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.